It's a massive India Today exclusive. A member of the US Congress, Ted Poe, has spoken to India today after the US declaration of Syed Salahuddin as a global terrorist. Ted Poe has recommended that the Trump administration in the United States cuts all military aid to Pakistan and declare Pakistan a state sponsor of terror. This is an India Today exclusive.
I'm being joined by Congressman Ted Poe to discuss in detail what he has been doing, an endeavor to ensure that Pakistan is labelled a state sponsor of terror. Many thanks for joining us, sir. We know that you have moved bills after bills. Let's begin with your latest bill that has to do with revoking Pakistan's status as a non-major NATO ally.
That legislation has been filed because the United States in 2004 allowed Pakistan to be designated as a major non-NATO ally. That allowed them to get certain military benefits from the United States. We should revoke that designation because Pakistan is not faithful in fighting terrorism. And that I have introduced that legislation. It's one of the consequences for Pakistan being two-faced. They say they fight terrorism, but yet they support terrorism, especially in Afghanistan. As the Afghan UN ambassador has said, Pakistan is supporting terrorism in his country. And so let's not allow them to get certain military aid, and that's why that designation needs to be revoked.
In terms of the kind of eyewitnesses who come during your Foreign Affairs Committee briefings, is there any concrete proof that the United States of America has against Pakistan? There were videotapes that came out of Osama bin Laden, of terror networks that were being supported by Pakistan. How concrete is that proof, really?
I'm a former judge in Texas, and the evidence is overwhelming that Pakistan supports terrorism. The best example is Osama bin Laden. They hid Osama bin Laden out in their country, and as soon as the United States took Osama bin Laden out, they punished and put in prison the one person in Pakistan who helped the U.S. get Osama bin Laden, Dr. Freedy. He's in prison on a life sentence. Perfect example. They are two-faced, and when they say one thing, they do something else. There are other examples. The United States, in my opinion, gives money to Pakistan. That money goes to ISI. That money then, in some of it's turned over to the Afghan Taliban that operates and hides in Pakistan, and they commit crimes against NATO allies, including American citizens, American military, in Afghanistan. The evidence is overwhelming that Pakistan supports terrorism.
Ted Poe is an influential US congressman. He's a former judge in Texas, says, I know evidence, I can appreciate evidence, and there is overwhelming evidence that Pakistan supports terrorism. In fact, not just in Afghanistan, as the congressman says, but also in India. And that is why India and the United States have worked together to ensure that terrorists in Pakistan are designated global terrorists. And after Hizbul Mujahideen's Syed Salahuddin was declared a global terrorist by the United States State Department, Pakistan, instead of taking action against him, is trying to extend even more legitimacy to a terrorist commander, insisting on labeling him a freedom fighter. Endorsement comes not only from the Pakistani state, but also from the so-called Pakistani civil society.
This is the public and media of Pakistan. Their sympathy is for a terrorist. They hit the streets, consumed by anger and outrage, after Syed Salahuddin was declared a global terrorist by the United States. It's a coalition of terror uniting against those who are fighting it. Pakistan claims it's a victim of terror activities, yet their backing is for a terror boss. In fact, the public support is hardly surprising, given how within hours of the US State Department proscribing the Hizbul chief, Pakistan jumped to his defense. Not only did the Foreign Office condemn the ban on Salahuddin, but also made him out to be the flag bearer of a so-called indigenous struggle in Kashmir. Pakistan is nervous, and why not, when on the issue of terror, they find themselves trumped.
आतंकवाद जैसी वैश्विक चुनौतियों से अपने समाजों की सुरक्षा राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप तथा मेरी टॉप मोस्ट प्राथमिकताओं में से एक है।
We will destroy radical Islamic terrorism.
Shaming Pakistan globally, the US State Department blocked all of Salahuddin's properties and assets in its jurisdiction. It also prohibits US nationals from engaging in transacting with Salahuddin and his terror group.
जो अमेरिका ने किया सही किया, वे वास्तव में आतंककारी हैं, तो उनको आतंककारी घोषित किया गया है। अब उनको शायद इस घोषणा से शायद उनको उनके मूवमेंट में, उनके फंडिंग में शायद कोई इम्पैक्ट आए।
But even now, with Pakistan shamelessly rallying behind this global terrorist, it's high time they stop playing the victim card and start taking responsibility for their deed. Bureau Report, India Today.
Pakistan is a state sponsor of terror. There are no two ways about it. It remains to be seen what action will a state sponsoring country take against terrorists. But the question also remains, what will India do now to ensure action is taken against Pakistan's proxies and those who create an enabling environment for terrorists to function, especially in Jammu and Kashmir, after the United States has declared Hizbul Mujahideen commander, Hizbul Mujahideen chief Sayyid Salahuddin a global terrorist. US designation of Sayyid Salahuddin as a global terrorist is a shot in the arm for India's operations against Pakistan-sponsored terror in the Kashmir Valley. India has relentlessly fought Pakistan and its proxies at the line of control in built-up towns and cities in the Kashmir Valley and the Stone Pelters. Pakistan all along gave cover fire to its terrorists in the valley, calling it an indigenous freedom struggle.
A new generation of Kashmiris has risen spontaneously against India's illegal occupation, demanding freedom from occupation.
But the world is no longer falling into Pakistan's terror trap. The US designation has paved the way for security forces to launch intelligence-based anti-terrorist operations to take out terrorists and their support base. It has now given the Narendra Modi government at the centre and the Mehbooba Mufti government in the state an opportunity to crack down on the Hurriyat Conference. The message from the world is clear. Those who pick up the gun and kill innocent people in the name of establishing an Islamic caliphate are indeed terrorists.
Both our nations have been struck by the evils of terrorism, and we are both determined to destroy terrorist organizations and the radical ideology that drives them. We will destroy radical Islamic terrorism.
आतंकवाद जैसी वैश्विक चुनौतियों से अपने समाजों की सुरक्षा राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप तथा मेरी टॉप मोस्ट प्राथमिकताओं में से एक है।
Remember, terrorists like Burhan Wani and Zakir Musa of the Hizbul Mujahideen had claimed their armed struggle was not for azadi or freedom, but to establish an Islamic caliphate.
इस कश्मीर में खिलाफत का निज़ाम कायम हो और हम कश्मीर में तो क्या पूरी दुनिया में इंशाअल्लाह ताला खिलाफत का निज़ाम कायम करके ही इंशाअल्लाह दम लेंगे।
जो संगबाज भाई हमारे, उनको मैं कहना चाहता हूँ कि वो जब भी पत्थर उठाए तो वो इस्लाम के लिए हो, वो कश्मीर के लिए या किसी वतन के लिए ना हो, ये वतनियत की जंग ना हो, वो खालिस और खालिस इस्लाम के लिए हो।
The big question is, will the government now go after terrorists and Pakistan's proxies who've created an enabling environment for terror to take root in the Kashmir Valley? Will the government crack down on stone pelters who obstruct anti-terrorist operations? And will the government arrest Hurriyat leaders who create an environment for terror to flourish? Pakistan and its proxies stand completely isolated. It's now time for the government to neutralize anti-India forces. Bureau Report, India Today.